Thank you, Dr. Sunil. And can you project my slides? Okay. So it is quite interesting that now we are talking about the digital path in almost all the specialties of the pathology, and it is becoming integrated part of the routine diagnosis. And that's why we must admit that digital path and AI is the future or the fourth revolution in the diagnostic armamentarium, and how it is different from the conventional pathology. Rather than seeing the slides or everything working under the microscope, now we get the opportunity to work on the computer screen similar to the radiologist. And these AI assisted tools also helps to give the more precise diagnosis and assisted diagnosis. So are we ready to sell our microscope? This is a question which every pathologist asks. Or are we going to lose our jobs to these AI tools? They are also questionable. So there are a lot of applications of this tool, but the major, it has started with the education research, but now many applications are coming to the clinical use or for the primary diagnosis. So the good thing is the many research activities, they are moving towards the clinical use, and there are immense benefits of this technology, because it not only improve the quality but also increase the productivity of the pathologist, and we can give the more dedicated time to specialized field. Especially pertaining to the oncopathology, the AI and digital pathology help to bridge all the various modalities on a single platform, and it can have a diagnostic, diagnostic, predictive, and prognostic rule. So not all the field of in the diagnostic armamentarium can be taken care if you use the digital and AI tools in the routine practice. So, and this has been observed across various tumor types, and across their various application, right from the survival prediction, mutation prediction, and response predictions. But the development of these tools, so we have to just understand they are various. These algorithms are developed either at the cell level, tissue level, or even patient levels, and then the more futuristic role is to bridge all these applications together, so that we don't have to go looking for the single application at one time. So this was just a background. The rest of the talk I'll focus mainly for the lung and how it is helping. The digital path and AI fields are helping in the lung cancer, because this is a dedicated lung cancer sessions. So it can have a various application, right from the counting of the tumor quantification, segmenting and classification of the tumor, to the predicting the genetic profile and even the outcome. So just to start with the diagnosis, we make a diagnosis using the morphological pattern, use some ISCs, and then offer a diagnosis of adenocarcinoma, squamous, or small cell carcinoma, and then tissue is usually subjected to molecular testing. But how AI can help, based on these models, they can, even on the biopsy resection or even on the frozen sections, you can predict whether the tumor is adenocarcinoma versus the squamous carcinoma, but the level of confidence is still between the 70 to 90%, and this is improving day by day with the more advancement. So once if the level of confidence increase or improve beyond 90%, it can be used in the clinical practice. Second application which AI can or these tools can help is the tumor quantification, which is the essential part for before going for any molecular testing. So what these tools do, they segment or identify the tumor focus from the background stroma or necrosis or inflammation, and it helps to give the more precise and quantification of the tumor area, which is very much essential for the molecular testing. So if you have a case, and upfront we have information and which is more precise as compared to the inter-observer variability. And in addition to these tools, they can also measure these tumor areas. So we will have a more precise help can be offered to the molecular diagnostic assay. But at the same time, we have to be careful for some false positive or false negative, like macrophages, alveolar macrophages, or the normal mucosa, which can be also sometimes misdiagnosed. So it is the training of the algorithm is very important for that. Another application which it is called as a 3D digital path, because why I'm talking about this, especially in the lung cancer, because we are more and more interested to push the tissue for the molecular diagnosis. So what these tools do, so they scan the paraffin blocks similar to what is done by the routine CT scan or the imaging technology, and they create a virtual image. So without cutting any slides or the blocks, you can get the information about the tumor content present in the block. So it can upfront help to identify which particular block is to be used without wasting any time. Another application for even in the at the site time of the biopsy procedures, like a instant digital pathology. So there are some coming application which can even create the images on the fresh tissue. So like this is an instrument called Vivascope. So it can help to even at the time of the biopsy. So there is you can triage the tissue directly for the molecular diagnosis, and it was also showed by that the block or the tissue cores which have a more of the tissue of the tumor content or significant tumor content can directly move towards the molecular testing. So even so it can be very exciting to get the molecular reports like EGFR or those even on the same day as that of the procedure. So this technology the paper was present in one of the conference where on the same day using this and idealize a platform for EGFR, the report was available to the clinician on the single day. Another important thing which we do as a pattern identification of the tumor, and here also AI applications can be of help because there are models which can predict which patterns of the tumor is present on the biopsy or even on the resection specimens, which but the problem is that when we develop these models, there is a lot of inter-observer variability, and there is you can see this paper has come in which involved around 18 pathologists, and there is some variability in establishing the ground truth. So we have to be very careful when we adopt these models, but it has immense potential. At least it can grade the tumors as per ICLC, and high grade patterns like micropapillary solid, they can be easily predicted. Another application is about the identification of lymph node metastasis, which can be used across various types, but it also has some challenges, especially or the confounding factor, especially in the lung. Granulomatous inflammation can cause a problem, and in Indian context, anthracotic pigment. So the algorithm which are developed in Western population might not be applicable here, and there are a couple of other problems. And in lymph node metastasis, the prediction of the metastasis focus can be variable, but with the new applications, even these algorithms can help to predict even micrometastasis. So this is one of the models which we are using in our lab. So what they do, first they identify the lymph node and then identify the tumor focus, and it gives the tumor area as a heat map. So it is very easy for the pathologist to reconfirm whether the metastasis is present or not. Another next application is about predicting the mutation profile, and which is also of very keen interest. So even if on HE images, if you can get information about the EGFR or the common alteration, it can be a very good help, and it can also help to triage the patients. Like these patients must be tested for these alterations, and we are also doing a couple of these studies, and both also on the imaging. That is, Dr. Abhishek has published this paper based only on the imaging, and also on the tissue, which is another. Next application is about predicting the response of the tumor, or how the tumor is going to behave based on the HE image. So this is called as a word like a HE 2.0. That means you can predict the behavior of the tumor only on the at the baseline information. It can be very useful application. So all these applications, how they are beneficial to the clinician. The major benefit to the clinician is it can reduce the time and very significantly, and as a pathologist we can try the samples and use these new diagnostic modality very more carefully. So this was about the various AI applications. So another application of AI is about the quantification of immunostains, especially they help to give the very objective scoring of the tumor. Like just to give the example of Ki-67, which is used very commonly in the neuroendocrine tumors. So these applications can help to give you they are more very reproducible, reliably we can use, and earlier we used to use this as take a snapshot of this and count positive or negative images, but now they can be very easily counted by using these software. But one thing we have to be very careful when you are using especially for the Ki67, it is not very strong or dark looking brown cells we have to take into account, but also various variable intensities. So whenever anyone you start using these technologies, we have to be very careful what the algorithm is trained for, and not to miss any weak positive cells. Another problem which a person can face when we are using them as a whole slide imaging, there should not be any false positive areas which are detected by the algorithm. Like, just to give you an example, here the lymph node, this is a metastatic tumor in the lymph node, and even the algorithm is counting the normal lymph node. So the selection of the area of the region of the interest is also very careful. Briefly about PDL1, we know that PDL1 is one of the very promising biomarker, but it has some concerns related to the interpretation and the scoring. So AI applications are in process of development, but they are not very well established as compared to the HER2, which is HER2 ERPR in the breast. The main reason is about the challenge is the algorithm don't have to only count the tumor, but also need to segregate the background immune cells or the stromal cells, which can also show the expression. So that's why the PDL1 interpretation is little challenging, especially in the lung cancer. So but in future this will also come into the practice, because many researchers are working to address these the common challenges about the PDL1. And there are some multi-institute studies where it has been demonstrated that the level of confidence is improving day by day, and the high level of confidence was seen with the Venton ISP263, because the staining is more bright. So anything which is more bright crisp is easy for the algorithms to interpret. The future is, hope is that these all algorithms will come as integrated with the routine workflow on our computer screen. And even for the other biomarker for the immunotherapy, we know that it is not only PDL1, but we need all to also quantify the immune microenvironment, which will not be possible using the single ISC. So we need to use the multiplex ISCs more and more in future, and but the quantification of them is challenging. And towards the end, we are moving towards the world of generative AI, where all these applications are integrated into it. And these are the couple of the models which came in last couple of years, which say that vision language. That means based on the whole slide, these algorithms will not give you information about any specific type, but also completely generate a report which can be a little dangerous for the pathologist, because there is a fear that we might lose our job. So this is one of the models. As you can see on the whole slide images, the reports are auto-generated and the various parameters are coming up. But whenever we include a human in this, along with this algorithm, the interpretation is and the output of these algorithms improve a lot. So towards the end, we have to use these all applications as a and it provides a good opportunity to discuss in the multi-institute disciplinary way. And so finally in the lung cancer, we have a lot of potentials like tumor detection, classification, and microenvironment analysis. And these applications will increase day by day, and the AI applications will become a routine part of the diagnostics. So with this, I thank our digital path team, and we have to move away from the microscope to the computer screens in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv, for the excellent talk. We can take one or two questions.
Yes. Yes.
So you presented adenocarcinoma slides with the heterogeneous pattern of histological
Yes.
types of cells. Is it the new observation, or previously also you have been observing?
No. So this is not a new observation, but these are the various patterns, and out of them, the certain patterns have a high chances of like aggressive behavior, like solid growth pattern, micropapillary growth. So, but the quantification is based on the just eyeballing by the pathologist. So it is even in the resection specimen, we have to quantify and give the percentage of each component. So that is as per the recommended.
Right. So
but now AI algorithm can help to identify these patterns.
That was the second part of question, whether you think AI algorithms are helping you to pick the rare admixture of the cells and patterns in more efficient manner.
Yes, so it will definitely help because you will not, even if there is a small component, even 5 or 10%, which can be missed by the routine observation can be picked up.
Okay.
But at till date, we have to reconfirm as a pathologist whatever the algorithm is picking is right or not.
So if you say right now we can identify EGFR whether it's exon 19 or 21, but
So-
can we be able to go deeper with the rare
So
mutations?
these algorithms has not matured enough. So right now they are just based on the because they are trying to analyze mainly nuclear features and further going deep into the cells to identify, especially for the molecular profiles.
Yeah.
So right now they can just predict it is present or absent, and rather than going, but in future it might be possible, and that needs more large data set of various different type of alterations. Like you need a large data set of common mutations and even including the rare mutations. Then only it can help.
So basically it's a target, it's a probability game as of now. Suppose if there is no EGFR or no targeted mutation identified by AI, at least you can put the patient straight away on chemotherapy
Yes.
without wasting, without anticipating for that thing to occur.
And even if algorithms say that it is likely to, you will push that case immediately for rather than, so it will help to triage your cases, which or rather than putting them in a queue, it's better to push those cases upfront for the testing to the molecular lab, which are likely to show the alteration.
But that's with the belief that you will only get false or negative. But there can be false positive also.
Yes, so that's when we need a definite confirmation. So molecular, right now it will not go. Yeah.
That if it is negative, then you can proceed to give chemotherapy may not be right.
Yes,
You may still need to test them because this may be false negative actually, and you may still find an EGFR alteration. Till such time these become very robust. Like I play this game with myself every time, whether this will be R positive, this will be EGFR positive, and I check them. So it is possible on morphology to really, like I will say with 80% success to predict that this will be EGFR, ALK or ROS, because ALK and ROS are overlapping. But that's what I wanted to say, that the eye can still be positive.
Yeah, so only this is evolving field. So we'll come to know about how much.
People should not go away with that belief that if the eye is saying negative,
Yes.
it's negative.
Yes.
So a great talk actually, and any role in FNACs? So can they read the FNACs for you?
So FNAC, even for for the digital, they were always challenging because they are not at the one plane. So even the scanning or digitalizing them was challenging. But now there are more advanced digital scanners has come, which has started to pick up identify those nuclear features. But cytology is more challenging as compared to the tissue because the cells are not at the same level. So because it is so. So as compared to the conventional FNACs, people, especially for the cervical cytology, for the pap smears, where LBCs are used, so that is being used as a very common tool for the screening to pick up the HCl, LCLs and those things. So LBCs has an advantage, but conventional cytology is still challenging for these AI algorithms because cells come at the one level. Yeah.
Other features like necrosis, microvascular densities, all those things can also be interpreted based on the.
Yeah, so all these whatever issues which we face for the routine diagnosis or the background or stromal cell or microenvironment, they can well be studied, but we need a different applications, separate application of the models which are trained to us. So that's why the generative AI, which is, so it is trying to bring all the information together using various applications like even counting mitosis, necrosis, tumor area. So, so these foundation models which are came up in last 1 to 2 years, they try to bridge all these individual applications so that towards the end we get all integrated and comprehensive reports rather than going for different application software for analysis.
And do you foresee that there will be a universal application for all the histologies, or will it be for tumor types actually?
No, so it is
Because primarily you look for mitosis, you look for the same characteristics of grading.
Yeah.
So will it be universal or not?
No, it can't be
It cannot
universal,
be
right?
universal.
No, because tumors they do not read the books. So wherever there is a very crisp boundaries, these AI applications work well. But where there are gray zone areas, it will be difficult.
No, there are certain features they take into account. The optical density of nuclei and cytoplasm, the regularity of the margin, the thickness of the nuclear envelope, and the cytoplasmic granularity, the alignment of the nucleus with the surface. Is it moving, the longest direction is moving at 30 degree, 40 degree, or is it at 90 degree? So there are several.
With typical HNE, you can't get all of this.
No, no,
Cell boundary is not defined.
no, the cell boundary is defined, the nuclear envelope thickness is defined. In a section, unless there is one tumor which is syncytial, even if it is syncytial, it will still have a cell margin. Probably the digital scanning can identify those cellular margin. So there are several common features of malignancy which the AI platforms can identify,
Universal, top of there will be a histology
specific to the histology.
Yes.
So just one last question. You mentioned that with the large data, you can train a good AI. How large your data set needs to be?
No, so now this is a common challenge which people also feel. So it is. Why we need a large data set? Because we want a model to be more and more robust. But sometimes it is practically not possible. So in addition to the large data set, if you have a different data set from the different geographic zones, that is also important. So it is not only the number, but also the diversity of the data set, that is also crucial. So that's why you need the algorithm which is developed in US or Europe, and even if it is FDA approved, might not be really
in India.
reliable for us.
Yes, yes.
And people has tried TCGA as a database, but the image qualities were not used. And once they tried these models in the TCGA dataset, they work well. But when we start using, even the EGFR model which we are validating, it worked well for the TCGA, but didn't work well for us. So there are problems.
Yes, thank you. And the whole reason why I was asking that question is because the EGFR work that you presented is coming from nearly 10,000 samples of our Tata hospital, and still that is not adequate enough. We need more. So an appeal to all the clinicians, when I come to you asking for 10,000 samples or 20,000 samples, don't look at me like I'm crazy. Now there are some other clinical experts who are also agreeing that this sample size is required.
So these foundation medicine models, they were developed on the 40 million whole slide images samples. So it is so data is like a huge gold mine for all these.
We need more data.
Yes.
Thank you.